Now, I'm getting ever so slightly weary of writing and filming these viewpoints off the back of yet another depressing development in British politics. I know full well, from 6 years now of working in the pro-life movement, that setbacks are inevitable, but it doesn't make it any easier when they arrive. On Wednesday, 18th of March, the Lords voted against Baroness Monckton's amendment to remove the decriminalisation clause from the government's crime and policing bill by 185 votes to 148. In brief, they doubled down on the House of Commons vote at the previous stage last June, in which the majority voting for decriminalisation was even larger. In one fell swoop, 185 Lords, out of a possible 842 currently sitting, decided that it is right and proper for a woman who kills her unborn child at any stage of pregnancy to never even face investigation by the relevant authorities, let alone arrest. Now, I don't know all or even many of those 185 Lords who gave assent to such unspeakable evil, but I do know that they are one of either two things: unscrupulous or naive, not fully understanding what the decriminalisation of abortion actually means. Just where do we as a pro-life movement go from here? I'll do my best in the modest time I have to answer this question. I'm William Curry, and this is my viewpoint. Right off the bat, I need to make a couple of observations that sum up the dire state of British politics right now. Just 333 of a possible 842 Lords were present and voted on Baroness Monckton's amendment. Similarly, but a bit more respectable, when decriminalisation was voted on last June in the Commons, just 516 of a possible 650 MPs were present and voted. Equally damning is the meagre amount of time that was set aside for the Lords to debate such a seismic issue. The debate lasted for a mere 2 hours, with plenty peers desperate to speak, but constantly being told to keep their speeches short. Similarly, last June the Commons set aside just 2 hours to debate the issue. When peers were allowed to speak, a range of opinions were put forward. A comment that I really do need to share with you is that of Lord McRae, who gets to the heart of the issue. Now, often when politicians speak about abortion, it is analogous to a group of people speaking about a person who is in the same room without actually acknowledging that person. Some politicians will do their damnedest to speak about abortion whilst being incredibly careful not to use those dreaded terms of unborn baby, unborn child, or even fetus. But Lord McRae dared to involve the person at the heart of this debate, the unborn child.
When we are talking about the life of an unborn child, we're not talking about an it, but a real living person with the expectation of being born, being protected by a caring and loving society, and held in loving arms. I don't think that's too much for a child to ask or expect.
It is the unborn child who lies at the heart of this and every other debate concerning a change in abortion legislation. But the 185 peers who voted for the decriminalisation of abortion up to birth would have you believe that this is a debate solely about women's rights. In not allowing women to be prosecuted for abortions at any stage of pregnancy, with the caveat of still allowing those who would assist them to be prosecuted, our political establishment are guilty of treating women in an infantilising manner. They simply refuse to believe that a woman could ever kill their baby post 24 weeks for malicious or self-serving reasons. But as I've mentioned before, this abortion extremism is out of kilter with the opinion of the British public. A June 2025 poll commissioned by SPUCTV found that most of the British public still believe in upholding legal protections for unborn children. Another thing is that, whilst reprehensible, the outcome of the vote in the Lords firmly places abortion in the bracket of mainstream talking points, at least for now. The decriminalisation of abortion up to birth is so beyond the pale that even those politicians who would otherwise describe themselves as pro-choice, such as former Olympic swimmer Baroness Sharon Davies, are coming out against this form of abortion extremism. After voting for Baroness Monkton's pro-life amendment, on the morning following the vote, Davies tweeted, "Couldn't sleep last night. I fear it's a grave mistake allowing a woman to abort a full-term healthy baby for any reason and to not reinstate face-to-face consultations for abortion pills only safe to use up to 10 weeks. Telemedicine is too easily lied to and undoubtedly will be. It's already estimated 1 in 17 home abortions end up in A&E. There will be many more. It's abandoning safeguarding for ease and any civilised rights a viable, innocent baby has." And then in the comments of Davies' tweet, you have none other than radical feminist Julie Bindel agreeing with Davies, replying, "I agree with you, Sharon. It is a hellish landscape." Now, to many of our slightly older viewers, the prospect of Julie Bindel herself falling on the pro-life side, even on just one issue, could scarcely have been imagined just a matter of years ago. The thing is that when you do something as radical as introduce consequence-free abortion up to birth, it radicalises people in both directions. I was pleasantly surprised to see this reporting of the vote by the Daily Express. The headline reads, "Dismay as abortion up to birth voted through by Lords, supported by only 1% of Brits." This is a headline not too dissimilar to SPUC's from the night of the vote, making abundantly clear what the editor of the Daily Express thinks about the issue. So then, coming back to my original question of where the pro-life movement in the UK goes from here, whilst it can be tempting to conduct a post-mortem and talk about all the things we could have done better, I honestly think there's little more the pro-life movement could have done to stop abortion up to birth. The fact is there are just enough abortion zealots and ideologues in the Commons and the Lords, so utterly detached from reality and out of step with the British public, for them to have got their way. I think we keep doing what we're doing. That is the dual approach of campaigning and doing what we can to change the culture, as we're very much trying to do here on SPUC TV. And clearly the work of SPUC is paying off, as after decades of doing their best to ignore us, the BBC finally relented and gave a nod to our work in a recent episode of Politics Live. Journalist Eve Webster, who recently penned an article on the rise of anti-abortion activism in the UK, had the following to say.
I've spoken to a lot of anti-abortion, or as they prefer, pro-life campaigners, and they tell me time and time again they are really heartened by the number of fresh faces who are joining the movement. Take, for example, the annual youth conference organised by the Society for Protection of Unborn Children. It was just a few weeks ago and it was the largest ever, sold out, a long waiting list, and organisers are looking to find a bigger venue for next year to meet the demand. So you can't say just off the back of one conference anything about a movement, but it is telling that events like these aren't dwindling, they're growing.
Now don't get me wrong, I'm under no illusions that the BBC are warming to us. No, they hate anyone who dares speak up for the unborn and would love us to go away for good. But the fact is they are now noticing us, not because they want to, but because they now have to. And so I really believe the way we respond to the hellish introduction of abortion up to birth is by continuing to do what we're doing as pro-lifers, working incredibly hard, every single day, always with the plight of the unborn child at the forefront of our minds. As I've said to you before, we need to, at the very least, be outworking our enemies, because you can be certain that the Stella Creases of the world are not resting until they have consequence-free, for all involved, abortion up to birth. Far from shying away from talking about the baby in the womb, and talking excessively, in my opinion, about the effects of abortion on women, at every turn we need to be pointing people to the child in the womb. So please don't be overly disheartened by the recent vote in the Lords. Let it be what makes you even more determined to put an end to the silent holocaust of abortion once and for all.